This is Stephanie, and this is the Mocha Minutes Podcast. Hey guys, before we get into the episode, I just want to let you know about something that's a little new here at the Mocha Minutes Podcast. We are now participating in Buy Me a Coffee. So if you haven't heard, buymeacoffee.com is a place where you can show some support and some love monetarily to some of your favorite content creators. That includes me. So it's in the increments of either $1, $3, or $5, and you can do as many as you would like. So I just wanted to let you guys know, would love some support. So if you would go to buymeacoffee.com/Mocha Minutes, I would greatly appreciate it. It will also be in the show notes. Okay, here we go. I know your eyes in the morning sun. I feel you touch me in the pouring rain. And the moment that you wander far from me, I wanna feel you in my arms again. And you come to me on a summer breeze, keep me warm in your love, then you softly leave. And it's me you need to show. How deep is your love? When I tell you, y'all don't understand. That's it. Y'all don't understand how much I love this song. It's a BG song. But if you are in the titles on the Spotify's or the Apple Music's, please get PJ Morton. Because I'm like, so first of all, thank you for putting this back in my lexicon. Because one, BGs are bops. I know songs don't slap, but this song slaps. Like food.
Like your mama used to make, okay?
I'm just saying. I'm like, this song slaps. How deep is your love? How deep is your love? I really need to learn.
Okay.
'Cause we're living in a world of fools.
What they trying to do?
Breaking us down.
Okay.
When they all should let us be.
That part.
We belong to you and me. I'm sorry, y'all have no idea how much I love this song.
It's such a great song.
It's so good.
It's such a great song.
It's so good. And it's like, I love a good cover. Like, Bee Gees are great covers because, like, there is no shade in this. Destiny's Child Emotion. I'm like, let me tell y'all something. They tear that up.
Okay.
It's like, oh my gosh. But y'all, welcome to the Mocha Minutes Podcast. I am here with the good Bishop. He came back from the Church of Shade, and he came through here. Come back to the Mocha Minutes Podcast. Bishop, how are you doing? Are you fairly middling? Blessed and highly favored?
Oh my God. Hi, Stephanie. How are you? I think what we're gonna do today is we're gonna officially retire the Bishop because no, it's not a bad thing. It's just, I'm out here living my life and I don't know, if I want the title Bishop.
Oh,
because I don't want the congregation to say my bishop, was out there in them streets. I'm just playing.
Look here, I gotta take my collar off, okay?
Yeah,
I don't want y'all coming after me.
Yeah, but I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me, Stephanie. How are you doing?
I am fairly middle. Look, I'm trying to behave. Because, for everybody who is listening to the show know that me and Brandon met on Clubhouse and we have kind of like, we're above it now. It's above me now. I can't do it because I think after a while, it's like, we are like old school Bravo fans. Tip it. Shout out to everybody who knows what the hell that means. We are old school. And after a while, it's like your viewing becomes very different. It goes from like, and I'm not gonna say it's immature. I'm like, you can do what you want. You go from like, it's team this person or team or death, vote or die, like that, to now like, girl, hold on, bring it to the court. We got to do discovery. I need to see all parts because I can't.
Yeah, and it's like, it's just sometimes like, and I'm thankful that Clubhouse brought us together. I
Yeah,
truly am. We have a little
same.
family, I
Me
love family
too.
that we have.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, at a certain point, you need to live real life and not be stuck in reality TV. And I feel sometimes people just get stuck there. And I like to
Mm-hmm.
live in actual real life. So,
Mm-hmm.
some things are great for a season, some things for a lifetime, and some things for a reason. And I think Clubhouse was just mainly, I think it was a season for a lot of people to be
Mm-hmm.
exposed to a lot of different people and connect and elevate. But I think that season has passed. And so, to those who still do it, shout out to them. But for
Mm-hmm.
me and my family, as the people would say,
As for me and my house,
okay, we've moved on.
because I think about like the amazing friendships that we have both gotten, and
Oh,
like the like to
yes.
just, oh, I'm not crazy. Because sometimes when you're watching shows, you're like, wait a minute, do y'all see what I said? Wait, am I going crazy? Oh, good, I'm not going crazy because y'all see it too.
Hmm.
Oh, okay. So
Absolutely.
because of the beauty of Clubhouse, the beauty of hashtag Club Bravo, met Brandon, and also shout out to my favorite boat lady, Miss Victoria. My
Yes.
my English trumpet down in Florida. So Brandon and Victoria told me about Bel Air, and I was like, again, late to the game. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna watch Bel Air. I watched the whole first season and literally ran to them and said, "Oh my God, the show is so good." And they were both like, "Girl, we told you. Don't come to us. We told you this." And it was, I was like,
We
okay.
did. We
We
did.
they really did. They were like, "Oh, why are not? We need to discuss." I'm like, "Discuss what? What's happening here? What's happening on the Bel Air streets?" And I was
Girl, a
like,
lot's
"Oh,
happening.
a lot." So now they have just wrapped up season two, and so initially when they did Bel Air, it was set up for like 2 seasons. They just got renewed for season three, so we are getting a season three.
Another season.
I said, okay, this is great. I'm like, oh, come on, renewal. Because the thing about it is like when I would watch Peacock, I saw a lot of commercials for Bel Air. I'm like, I think people really are watching this show. But I think when it's like when you're streaming, it's like it's kind of like you can't read timelines correctly because it's streaming. So it's not like it comes on at a certain time of day. So then it's like you're like, wait, who's talking about this? I'm like, oh, I guess nobody. But then you're like, no, people are talking about this.
Hmm.
So it's like it's kind
Absolutely.
of
It's
hard. That's the
such
thing
a
with streaming. Yeah.
I will tell so but I'm gonna be honest. When Bel Air first was floated, because I don't know if you ever saw it, but there was a proof of concept that was
Mm-hmm.
floated a while ago. And I remember seeing
Yeah.
it and I was like, okay, this is an interesting take. And so once they finally brought that to life, definitely, season one, I am someone I don't like to hop on a bandwagon. So what I will
Mm-hmm.
say is I did actually start with season one. Like it happened organically.
Mm-hmm.
I watched season one and I was like, okay, we did the thing. It happened. It's here. It's Bel Air. But then when they're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, we're coming back for a season two, I was like, all right, I'm intrigued to see where they go with this.
Yeah.
And Bel Air, my mom just got into it. I just told her, I was like, are you watching Bel Air? She
Mm-hmm.
was like, I was like, you need to watch Bel Air.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, I think there's that preconceived notion that comes from, loving Fresh Prince growing up.
Yeah.
Like, I loved Fresh Prince of Bel Air growing up because it would be on
Mm-hmm.
before school, after school, during school, you name it, it was on. Okay. So,
Mm-hmm.
growing up with that and still being able to remember such iconic episodes, characters, or like that, what I like to call them Willisms,
Mm-hmm.
when he would be on the
Right.
show, and then coming into a new version of that, sometimes it can put people off a little bit, but then once they get a taste of the Kool-Aid,
Mm-hmm. That was
they're there.
me. That was me like under my weighted blanket on a Saturday watching all of season one, going, oh my God. Because you're right. I remember that proof of concept, and I was like, this is actually kind of cool because you would think if you think about the story that the comedy was telling, like you really could make this a drama. And it just
Hmm.
made sense. It wasn't like, girl, that's crazy, but it's like it totally made sense. So then when Will Smith saw it, said, oh, we'll do it. I'm like, oh shit, this is happening.
Hmm.
So it was kind of like you go, huh? And then you watch it. Um, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about the shades of the children, and I'm just like, I could make these jokes, but I refuse to do so. I'm not going to do the Cosby where they did the
Mm-mm.
Cosby thing. Like, now, girl, how the hell? I'm
One
like,
plus
nope.
one.
I'm like, one plus
Mm,
one does not equal 44. So I don't know
mm-mm.
what's going on here, but you know what? Never
Right.
mind. I still like the show. It's like, I don't know how these two brown skinned people got all these light skinned children, but you know what?
We're gonna roll with
I'm gonna roll with it. You know what? You ain't gotta worry about me. You ain't gotta worry about me because I'm gonna be here.
it.
So season two has ended.
hmm
How did you leave season two?
Ooh, um, to be honest, I kind of wanted more. I felt while we wrapped up some things, I still felt like the things that we introduced
Mm-hmm.
in season two didn't need all season to go.
Mm.
And I felt once we wrapped it, while everything was kind of nice with a bow setting us up for season three, I
Mm-hmm.
think I wanted more. I think I wanted more complexity to the conflict. I think I wanted
Mm.
more fleshing out of certain things because I think certain story moments were introduced and then quickly done away with. Right.
Yeah.
The fight with, trying to save Ashley's teacher's job, right? It was introduced and then it was kind of done away with really quick and she was gone to a new job.
Yeah.
So there were things that were done that I loved this season, but there were things that I was like, you know what, that could have been quicker or that could have been longer, or how do you leave us on a note that, coming back next season, we're ready for it, we're here for it, boom, we're starting off with the bang. So that's where like I enjoyed season two. It kept me,
Mm-hmm.
binging through all of it. Like I was week after week just watching and watching and watching. And while I enjoyed it, me as a writer and a critique,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
just felt we could have gone a little bit further with some stuff.
Yeah, because I think the shining part of like basically the different arcs literally is Carlton, but he also was that first season for me. But this
hmm
season, it's like to see it more fleshed out because I'm like, there is so much nuance to being like the token black guy at a predominantly white school. I'm like, we got to
Right,
see it. We got to see it because,
right,
when you think about like the token black dude at a predominantly white school, they don't have very pro black parents, maybe. So
right.
it's kind of like you go, what, how would their parents look? So I'm not exactly sure. So there are three arcs that I'm like, yeah, grand opening, grand closing. I don't like that. I want to see what's going on. The first, definitely, I agree with you, is Ashley's teacher. I'm like, how you not gonna drop in Miss Daydream and Tatiana Ali and not have her for a little bit longer?
Right,
I'm like, no, I need her back. I need her back.
right. Yeah,
This,
that felt too flash,
I was
right? Like
like,
there was a very big buildup. Like when we knew that she was cast in the show, that she was
yeah,
coming in. So I was expecting to see her all season long. So I agree.
correct.
I agree with you. And I think that it, I felt like that storyline could have been, that was when I felt they could have stretched the whole season. Like,
And it would have
really,
worked.
right, opening it up more to like, well, maybe there's other teachers here who feel the same or who have been doing it, or, maybe it really brings in the media because this one black
Mm-hmm.
teacher has fight. I felt like that could have been a push considering Carlton's other teacher kind of being on the opposite side,
Yep,
right? Like
very much
she
respectability politics. I'm like,
So I felt like that could have been really fleshed out more. But you said you had two other points that you felt.
so yeah. So the second one was Jazz's parents being Muslim. It was just
Mm,
kind of like we kind of just threw that out there, and I'm like,
hmm
yeah, okay, that's interesting that we're doing that with this, and it was literally like a weird fetish thing they did with Hillary, and I'm like, yeah, that's actually super weird. But then you think about it, like that may be how some black people think. It's like, oh, okay.
mm,
It's like they may fetish someone either like someone who's African or someone who is Muslim because we think about those things where it's like, this is not the quote unquote normal black person.
right.
It's like, I don't know. It was kind of like,
And
it just was like, I don't even know if like them saying Jazz's parents were Muslim was necessary because it wasn't necessarily
it didn't
lining
add
up.
it didn't add or take away anything from the story. And I think
No.
that's what you have to think about when incorporating those aspects. Now, you know me, I am a DEI champion. I am
Yep.
all about representation and inclusion. And so I did appreciate it from that lane. But to your point, it kind of felt a little hollow. And so if you're going to incorporate this as who Jazz is, have that
Mm-hmm.
more of a bigger through line. Maybe that was why him and Hillary had a little bit of friction because she didn't dress a certain way, right? Maybe
Yeah.
he didn't know why he was feeling that way towards her. But then let's say the religion is brought in and you're like, oh, well, now that makes sense. It just felt
I'm
I
like, I'm
don't know.
confused. Why are we having this discussion?
And they just threw it in for a moment and then it was done. And that's why I'm saying, like, to your point too, like with the season, it was just certain things that I felt could have gone longer. And then
Hmm.
certain things that was kind of like, well, what was the reason, girl? Like,
I'm like,
what
I'm
what are
so
we doing?
confused.
Yes.
It's like, what? So the third one is going to be funny because I really need to understand what this young man's issue is. But homeboy that was like trying to frame Carlton out of nowhere. So it's like you kind of like,
Oh.
wait a minute, hold on. What you don't this is gonna be no, it's not bad to say. It's just gonna be funny for me
Mm-mm.
to say. He was the most light-skinned person I've ever seen in my life. This is some light-skinned shit right here. I'm like, girl, what is happening on my screen?
Well, what
And
for me? Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
no, I was just in here like, this is so weird because then you do get the juxtaposition of there are lighter skinned black people who literally want to measure everybody else's blackness around them. I'm like,
Mm.
you ain't really black because you doing this. And it's like, what the hell? But it's like, does that happen at the PWI? Probably.
It just felt, I don't know, his character for me, I saw what they were trying to do. They were trying to give us like a high level conflict, right? So high level
Mm-hmm.
conflicts for me this season felt like the whole Erica and Uncle Phil, the
Mm-hmm.
merger, right? And them trying to
Mm-hmm.
poach him. I felt the
Mm-hmm.
overarching, tying into that was like Doc with Will. So I think they try to give us like these high level conflicts and then like the kind of ground level conflicts. And I felt like that they were trying to make him the ground level conflict of like this classmate who was kind of jealous and bitter. But
Mm-hmm.
it didn't feel like why were you more so mad at Carlton and not Will?
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah, you wanted Lisa, so like you had an edge for Will, but you were really after Carlton. And it was like, while I get it, it felt like he was trying to be the token black kid of the school at the PWI who was leading all these.
Yeah.
That's what it gave me, but I think the execution of it all is what lost me. Um, so what I will say is I did appreciate the resurfacing of the video. I like that that
Correct.
was a full
Correct.
circle
Same.
moment, but then my thought was like, well, how did you get the video?
Exactly. Because
Were you
now I'm
on the
like,
team?
where's like, wait a minute, how is this video floating around? Because I'm like, whose video is this?
Right, because when that video have surfaced before now, right? So like if this
Correct.
video was out there and he ain't on the sports team, how did the video get out?
Yeah, because the thing about it is like it was just like, oh, he's the one who dropped it. But then I was also like, so who gave him the video?
Correct.
I was like, wait a minute, like I feel like it's like, and the whole airdrop thing is like, I didn't realize what an airdrop thing was. I'm like, I feel like Sister Auntie by doing this. I was in a local production of The Wiz. And then we had like, it's kind of like you have kids there too because they're playing the Munchkins. And they're like,
Hmm.
yeah, I can airdrop them. I'm like, what the heck is airdrop? They're like, oh, you've never done this before? And I'm sitting here like, I feel, child, give me my bareback and body because they just called me old in my face, but I'm also holding myself old. So when he was like airdrop, I'm like, don't you gotta have that set up on your phone? How did everybody in that room have? What is happening? But then it was also like, what did taking out Carlton have to do? Because wasn't Will the front runner? It was just like, wait a minute, are you trying to get him? Or you just don't want them to do it,
Both
or
of
you don't know? I
them.
was like, what is
Yeah.
happening? I'm
To your
like,
point, it's like we don't know the reason. It's like,
it's,
what was the reason? Because because Will was the front runner due to him with the protests at the school, right? So like
yeah,
that wasn't gonna hurt him.
no.
Carlton wasn't gonna really win. So were you
It's
just
like
more
I feel
so
like Cardi
doing?
B. What was the reason? That's how I was
And
sitting
I
there. I'm
think it
like,
was more so he was trying to reveal, like to expose him because of the whole teacher thing. But I'm like, even still with that, like if he won the front runner, what was he supposed to do?
what was it supposed
Like,
to do? It's like you still wouldn't win it, but it's kind of like also Carlton didn't have Lisa because it's like this, and the whole thing with Lisa is just very much like, girl, what is happening here?
right,
I was like, what is
right.
happening?
Right. It was, yeah. That story. So I get you there because he kind of was like this really weird wishy-washy character that felt like they didn't know what they wanted him to do. It was like, are we setting him up to be like the big bad in season 3 at school? But beyond that, Carlton admitted his errors. So I mean, there's no purpose for him there. The only purpose I could see is like him coming after Will because of Lisa. But even with that, it's like you can't really do like we already know Will's background from season 1, so bringing that
Mm-hmm.
out won't do anything. This season they wrapped it up nicely with the bow with the boys with Doc. So it's like
Yeah.
how I don't see what his angle would be moving forward.
I I was like, I need you to explain like what is end game for you because it was
Right,
like I was like, what is happening?
right. I'm right there with you. But those are good call outs though, because I feel like it lands on why where I had the challenges with the season. And again, for the
Mm,
listeners, I love this season. Don't get me wrong.
it's a really good season.
It's just from a writing perspective because I do write. Sometimes
Hmm.
it's easy to start picking up on certain things, like what conflicts are going to be driving what characters. And I think that for me, that was why I watched this season. While yes, I loved it, I kind of had a critical lens on because we're now in the
Hmm.
sophomore season. And sophomore season sometimes are make or break for shows. Sometimes that's the
It
first
is.
season, but sophomore season, we're back with these characters, we're fleshing them out a bit more. And again,
Hmm.
it was still kind of much of the same for me. Like it was,
Yeah.
um, even with them bringing in Jeffrey's son, which I thought was a nice nod to the original. But if you know the original, you know Jeffrey's son ain't on it, right? So,
Yeah.
and it was like, okay, you're telling us as an audience, it's very crucial and a safety risk to
Hmm.
contact this young man. Yet we're about to fly him out to LA. There is no secrecy. We about to go down to a coffee shop or a restaurant. Like it just felt
Hmm.
very, I want to say messy to then get us to the point that someone's watching Jeffrey in the end, right? So
Yeah.
it was like there were ways of still doing that, whether it was Will, again, there were certain moments that they could have fleshed out. Maybe
Hmm.
Will took it upon himself to get the information to give to Jeffrey, and then Jeffrey went behind the parents' back. And then now we have a situation, right?
Right.
Okay, give us that because it's Will in a moment of like, look, I saw what this did with me not knowing my dad, so
Hmm.
I'm gonna help you out. Right behind Phil and Aunt Viv's back, and then you find out the reason of like, well, Will, the reason why we kept you from your dad was this reason. The reason we kept him from it, I felt they could have gone a different way about it
Yeah.
because to have them fly this young man out and then we don't get this picture until I think it was the finale. It's like,
Yeah.
so while yeah, we know they're being watched, y'all have set up Jeffrey to be this great boss man, hit man.
Hmm.
He wouldn't be that lousy.
It's like, wait a minute, is he Jason Bourne or what is happening here?
Right.
It's like, because when they just kind of like said, it's like, it's someone who calls and just hangs up. I'm like, and then you have a picture. I'm like, okay, so I'm very confused. Do they want him to find his son, or do you want him? I'm like, okay, so I guess this is a arc that y'all are introducing here for season three, because that's how I feel about the whole Uncle Phil got a new job, and then homegirl from his past that don't fuck with his wife. And
Yo,
I was like, okay, so we're setting this up. Please don't tell me you set up an affair, because I'm like, let me tell you something. Look, Uncle Phil a little too fine, and I'm not fooling with y'all.
okay.
But
Like
mm,
it was just like, you know, it felt like, and again, I don't, is that necessary? Like,
it's
and
like,
then
come on, y'all.
to tell us that Viv knows the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Phyllis telling Jeffrey, oh, well, I know how to deal with Erica. But then for him to meet up with her for dinner, like it just felt very, again, this is a moment where I'm like, okay, y'all are just trying to make stuff happen for the next season. Cause like I could tell it just felt from things that they've established, you're undoing it in this moment to push the story along without there being like a proper prompting of that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what are y'all trying to do? Because,
Mm-hmm.
like, so those are my big three. I think the other thing was the Doc arc, where it was kind of like, I feel like y'all
Mm,
not going far enough when we talk about how, even though basketball seems to be a black sport, how easy it's not to get seen by the right scouts, especially at the high school level. So it's
yeah.
like, I'm like, I feel like y'all could have did more, because paying scouts to come to see folks, I'm like, I feel like people know that, but maybe they don't. But then it's
Mm-hmm.
also, okay, so how far are we doing that? Because basically, y'all set it up for Uncle Phil to just look the other way is actually kind of interesting to me.
Yeah. It I don't, again, even from how they set it up in the pilot, right, of this season,
Mm-hmm.
or episode one, should I say, where we have the young man come into Doc's office and they look up Will, and there's a kind of like that
Mm-hmm.
overshadowing of like, well, they know who Will is to pump him for money. But
Mm-hmm.
then we go through this season and it's like, well, no, I'm just trying to give these boys an opportunity. I'm like, sir, which is it?
Wait a
Like,
minute. It's like, I thought y'all were trying to get Uncle Phil's money. Like, wait a minute,
right.
what?
Because for me, so honestly, what I thought was going to happen when it started was
Mm-hmm.
when they looked Will up and we see Will in the like the paper. I thought this guy had connections to the dude Will was running from in season one. And
Okay,
I
so yeah, yeah,
and I
yeah.
thought it was gonna be some type of tomfoolery of like, oh, Will is
Or like
on
I'm
this
getting payback for
team.
this. It's like,
Uh-huh. And then it was gonna ruin him. That I was like, I thought that's what we were getting. I thought they knew who Will was,
mm-hmm.
despite Phil's efforts, and I thought they were going to leverage Will in a means of payback. Instead, it was like, well, we know you know what you did for him. Can you do that for me?
Yeah, it was like, wait a minute, that's what we're doing. That's how it felt like. Wait a minute, that's what we're
Mm-hmm.
doing. It, for reals? Oh, that's the thing. Oh, I guess Angela Bassett did not do the thing. It's like I
Mm-mm.
don't even understand. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, and that was what was I think a little weird for me was
Mm-hmm.
that storyline too of and again while drama and these things happen in real life, right? Like there
Mm-hmm.
are scouts like that. There are, people. I just feel like when you set it up within TV, like the pacing of it, like certain things have to make sense and carry us through. And as much as I love a good villain, it's like give me a villain, like give me a villain, right? Even though it's nuanced, it's complex, but
Mm-hmm.
make the story land. And I felt like that story didn't land for me, even with the introduction of Jackie, like it just felt very like,
Like,
okay, we're season two. We need something here as trouble. Who do we introduce? And I think that's the approach that was taken. And again, I do think to an extent, some of that storytelling was very impactful because you're like, well, what the heck is happening? Like,
mm-hmm.
is Will gonna sign? Is Will not gonna sign?
Yeah.
But then it was just like the length Will was going to impress this man, like Doc, oh Doc. Like, we
Yeah.
didn't really even know that much
It's
about
like, wait
Doc.
a minute, you
Like,
didn't know who Doc was last year. And now all of a sudden it's like he is Jehovah. I'm
right.
what?
And I feel like if they could have introduced him last season of like,
Yeah.
oh, you know who that is? Who is that? Oh no, that's Doc. Like he comes and
Mm-hmm.
poaches kids. Because like, could you imagine like a student from Will's team being
Mm-hmm.
poached, right? Or someone
Mm-hmm.
else being poached? Because like this was a team that his own team even heard about. So it's like they could have dripped that in for us a little bit earlier of like, oh, we want to be like this team. Well, what team? Oh yeah, Doc's team. They're da 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
Give us this man because nothing about Doc was believable for me to put anything on the line. Like, I'm like, you out here ruining your own basketball game at school for this man who
But
ain't
this
even
man is
affiliated?
you like what? Like what do you, I'm sorry. Bring the receipts. What receipts do you have that he has like made a difference in somebody's life? Like for real. I'm like, I need to
Hmm.
understand. But maybe they just like I'm trying to like give benefit of doubt. Like, maybe they just didn't want to get too much into the weeds.
Right. Yeah, and it's just I don't know, but like I said, I still enjoyed it. Despite all my like feedback and critique,
Exactly. We're
I
like, we're
enjoyed it.
saying all of this, and we're like, we still really like the season.
Because well, my thing is like when you see yourself on TV, and when I see yourself, I'm talking about Black people on
Mm-hmm.
TV. That's already an accomplishment, right? Like that's
Correct.
amazing, and it gives us like, oh my God, like look at us, like look at us, you know.
Look at us.
But then you want to make sure that what we're putting out too is like solid because we know audiences sometimes who don't look like us when they go to
Mm-hmm.
watch it, this is sometimes their first interaction to many of these storylines that are relevant to us, right, as Black people. And
Mm-hmm.
you want to make sure that it's impactful, that
Right.
walking away from it, while no, this should not be their barometer of how to engage with Black culture and what we go through. But you still want to make sure that you're giving an accurate portrayal of some of the things that we do deal with.
Yeah.
And so I will say even the family reunion episode, wow, that was very like I love seeing stuff like that. It just felt too
Yeah.
short. It
It
was like
did.
we're here and we're gone. We're here and we're gone. And
Yeah,
that's
because
how I felt the stories kept moving was like kind of like a story of the week to which that works with like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air because that's more of
yeah.
like oh, okay, it's kind of like a story of the week. Whereas with this, you have a full story you got to carry from start to finish. And it just felt like a lot of things that we were given did not need to be there, or they were thrown away with too early, or the things that we got at the finish line, it was like, well, we could have done away with this earlier on.
Correct. Because I think one of the more compelling arcs from season one that I'm glad they kind of fleshed out is Lou. I feel like even though it's like Ben Vereen, hands down, love that episode,
Hmm.
love this episode, but actually seeing like what would your father look like if he literally is a man who cannot stay out of prison, who has not been in your life? And like, how much, like, what would he actually look like? And so we actually got like somewhat of a accurate picture. I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't ever see Marlon Wayans as a serious actor, but he ate up the scenery in this. I'm like, yeah, because this is a little bit too real, which I
Mm,
like. Because I'm
yeah.
like,
Yeah, Lou. I'm like, yeah, I kind of like this Lou. I kind of like saying like Lou is not just like happy-go-lucky 30-minute comedy. I'm like, no, this is like,
Mm-mm.
I'm like, why? Because one, you'll have to ask. Yeah, this is. I'm not asking anymore. Yeah, this is why Phil don't want you around this kid. It's like, no, you need to stay away. You need to stay away. It's like he got too much going on for him.
Right. And I will say, I felt Marlon in a serious role was great. Like I did enjoy him because we really don't get to see him like that,
Right. Yeah.
And to your point, it's like there are certain things and people or stories that are introduced where you're like, okay, yeah, oh, y'all did that. Like, oh, yeah.
Mhm.
It was like, I don't know. I feel with where we're leaving off in season two, I don't know where we're going in season three because
Mm,
for Phil and Vivian both to know how Erica is, what's the point of her character now, right? Like if Vivian is saying she's gonna keep her eye on Erica and Phil is
mm.
saying I know how to handle her, that already removes the
There's
tension
no
of that
mystery.
storyline. Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
mystery.
It's like we know who she is, right? The thing with Jeffrey for me, I feel could give us the most mystery, but even with that, it's like okay, well, if they're gonna do similar to the original show, we know that the son is probably behind this foolishness.
Right.
And so, it's just I think certain things shouldn't have been wrapped up too neatly. And even with like we got to get to my girl Hillary because I love the fashions and I love
Mm.
me some Hillary.
Come
Even
on.
her with LaMarcus,
Oh,
I that storyline for me, I was like, wow, LaMarcus is great to look at. Don't get me wrong, I would love
he
me a
is.
LaMarcus to buy me a
Hello.
billboard, to
Put
scoop me
on the
off
hoochie
my
daddy
feet,
shorts, please,
come
sir.
to my
Thank you so
family
much.
reunion and show out
Okay.
everybody. Like I'm here for
Okay.
all that. Because Stephanie, I'll throw on some shorts in a minute.
Yeah. Come
Um,
on. Come on.
um, I just felt like also even with that, it was like, okay, we need to give her and Jazz conflict. This is the way to do it, right? In addition to, because I felt what she shared with him about Jazz's own insecurities, I felt worked better as a conflict already.
Correct.
Um, but like you're telling me, this Lamarcus character is gonna show up, he gonna do the thing like Angela Bassett,
Mhm.
and it just felt still kind of very hollow. It was like, okay, he's here. Hillary, you're telling Jazz you don't know if you can trust him again, but then you're gonna go back with this man. Now, granted, they didn't break up for bad reasons, right?
Correct.
But
Yeah.
you also said in a breath before, like, oh, the house is doing well and like business is booming. So then how sway you about to leave and go with this man? Like it was just
It's too many. It's too many questions. Because the thing about it was kind of like now Chad saw her last season. Now all of a sudden he has developed insecurities, but I think he may have just been cosplaying as confident. And I think that's what we really could see. But the thing about it is to a certain extent, I'm sorry, her going on the trip to Lamarcus, I'm sorry, I'm like, yeah, girl, go on. Because I don't have time for this. Because the thing about it is you're not going to ghost me because you are insecure. It was kind of like
hmm
I kind of like that it wasn't like you opened the door and she was with Jazz. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. I'd have been like, girl, you don't go to fucking Paris.
Listen, but this is my thing. I would take the trip to Paris. I mean, I would be about it. It was just the way that the story was set up for
Yeah,
me.
it was kind of like, huh?
It was like we watched Hillary all season build up the house to finally get to a point where it's on its feet and it's moving, and then all of a sudden you're just gonna peace out when you're finally in the pot spot you want to be in. And I'm not saying that you can't go on a trip with your boo, because trust and believe, if Lamarcus came to me, I would be in a dilemma too.
I'd be like, I'm just saying. I'm like, okay, so where? So when the flight?
Right. But it's like these writers establish things, right? We saw how hard it was for Hillary to finally get on her feet without oh girl, right? And like here
Mm-hmm.
she is and she's doing the thing, and then the first thing you're gonna lead, like I I felt in that moment what could have worked was Hillary being like Lamarcus, while I want to go to Paris,
Mm-hmm.
this is coming first. And then him being like, well, cool, I'm staying. Because then you really set it up of like, well, now
Right.
we know Jazz really got some work to do because if Hillary is focused on her grind and this man is okay with that and is supporting that to show that he's not insecure, that's going to give
Yeah.
you much of a harder fight than them just up and going to Paris, right?
Yeah.
Jazz can save his little coins to take her somewhere. It may not be Paris,
You can
it
take
may
him
be
to Paris,
Cabo,
Texas. Okay.
Paris and Vegas, Paris at Epcot at Disney.
Okay.
But like it just feels like okay, we're at the end. We got to give all these an ending. And I will say the shot of it was great of them like making us try to think it was Jazz. But I was like, nah, she ain't talking to Jazz.
Mm-mm.
Um, so there, I just wanted more. I wanted more. Like I felt we got a touch of not a touch of emotion, but like we really got to see
A little
Hillary
bit.
emote more of like her staying in bed, right? And like the whole, this is how you hurt me, which that's very real. Like I've
Mm-hmm.
been in relationships in the past before when the person you thought was your person really wasn't there for you how they needed to be. And it had to
Mm-hmm.
deal with their own insecurities. And, being able to question like, if I come back with you, can you guarantee with me that like that won't happen again? And while,
Mm-hmm.
in a perfect world, that person will say, I can promise you that. We don't live in a perfect world. And that's on that person to be like, I can't promise that. And that was the most real response.
I actually love that he said, I can't promise that because
But
that's
he
more
said, I'm
human.
try.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
It's
I was
like,
like,
yeah.
girl, if you don't get that man, as much as I love
Right.
me some Lamarcus, because I think in that moment it was him saying, like, Hillary, I can't promise you that, but like I can try, I'm trying.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're probably going to see that play out in season 3. I'm sure with
Yeah.
Lamarcus being an athlete, that's going to be a big thing. And I feel like what's unfortunately going to happen is we will see Hillary slip into like that trophy girlfriend role. But,
Right.
shouts to Hillary because I did enjoy her this season, as I always do. And I enjoyed her fashions. I'm interested to see where their story goes
I
and really solidify.
agreed because I need to understand this whole Lamarcus thing because it was like, how long had y'all been broken up? And then why all of a sudden he's like, I gotta have you back in my life. I'm like, girl, what happened? Yo, what happened? Because why did y'all break up in the first? And I think they may have touched it like maybe distance or this is not what I
It
wanted
was
for my life.
distance.
All
It
right.
was it was so he was going away
Mm-hmm.
and she was wanting to focus and it was the distance. It was like they didn't think that she didn't want to do distance. So like they didn't break up on bad terms.
Terms. Yeah.
And it was basically they
Okay.
were both choosing themselves, which again is not a bad thing. And I've always told people
Right.
this. I'm like, listen, with my career, myself comes first. And as much as when I am in love or in a relationship, that is a conversation that my spouse or my partner and I have to have, but I always have to
Mm-hmm.
choose me. Now, if I'm married, that's different. That's a
Right.
different conversation. But if we're just in a relationship, like I have to still choose the things that I want to, unless I'm in the point of my life where I'm like, nah, I'm good, right? Like if I'm in a place where I'm like, I'm where I need to be, I'm good. But if I'm
Mm-hmm.
still wanting to push myself further, I owe myself that, right? Because I owe to
Yeah.
be the best self that I'm supposed to be. And I'm supposed to chase my dreams, just like you're supposed to chase your dreams. And when I think of in context of athletes, athletes make a great income. They are doing a lot, they travel a lot, they're very well known.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas their spouses, as we see, sometimes spouses don't want to be in the public eye, and that's okay. Whereas you have those who are, but then your life is fully swept into theirs. You're no
Right.
longer on your own. It's girlfriend of, wife
Right.
of.
Right.
And for Hillary to work so hard to, get to this point in her
Mm-hmm.
career, I could see why they broke up because again, she didn't want to be his trophy girlfriend. But now here we are, you've built yourself to a good standing, and then all of a sudden you're just gonna kind of backslide because you're mad at Jazz, essentially. Like
Yeah.
the fact that he showed up despite being there for Will, right?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, why was Hillary not at the thing? Well, yes, you about to go with Lamarcus, but like if your brother and your cousin are up for an award,
Why are you not there?
hmm
That was a question. I was like, wait a minute, Hillary not here? I was like, where is she at? But also, I love that this show, this series is fleshing more out of Hillary, and she's not as flighty as she was on the and I get it, it's a
right.
comedy, but it's like looking at like Hillary wasn't floundering for too long. It was like, okay, I'm like, I left school, I'm gonna figure this out. And she seemingly figured it out and turned into like an influencer. To some extent,
hmm
that's like pretty awesome, quite frankly. It's like, yeah, it's like I'm like, I like this. I like this,
Yeah,
for her figuring herself out. So
absolutely.
uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, I
What
don't
do you
know,
think
man.
about Miss Ashley?
Okay, so I think season 3 we're gonna get into Ashley's queerness, which is very interesting.
Yes.
But I think it's like I'm like even though I'm like saying like y'all we're saying like other stuff isn't fleshed out because of Ashley's age. I'm glad
Mhm.
y'all taking baby steps with this because of her
Yes.
age.
Yes.
I
Yes.
kind of like very much very pro black Ashley as opposed to pro black Ashley because of Will. Yeah,
hmm
this has nothing to do with Will. This has everything to do with her.
Yeah.
Like kind of like that's by herself, but I think the fluid Ashley is coming season 3. And that's what
Yep.
we're leading up to, and I think that's going to be very interesting.
So as a part of the community, um, I'm excited for this storyline. I remember when last season it was kind of touched on, right? And
Mm-hmm.
everybody and their mama was in an uproar. Oh my God, how dare you all do this? This is
Oh
a black
God.
show. Why we gotta make
Okay.
everybody gay? Newsflash to the black community. There are black gay people, black lesbians, black trans people.
Mm.
So just remember within Black Lives Matter, that's the rest of us too. Okay, back on track.
Okay.
So 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 when it comes to Ashley, I what you said is what I noticed. I noticed they took a little foot off that gas this season because she is young, right?
Correct.
Let her focus on what she wanted to focus on. Not saying that she's not going to focus on like dating and stuff, but like
Mm-hmm.
she clearly got her heart a little broken in the first season when she had a crush.
Yeah.
So now here we are where it's like she's focusing on social justice and she's focusing on, being who she wants to be, propelling
Mm-hmm.
herself forward with her education. And I like that we didn't get it until the finale. And it
Correct.
turned out to be the girl that she kind of really didn't care for,
Because
right?
they're like, I thought
So,
she was pretty. I'm like, wait a minute, y'all don't like each other. I'm like, oh wait.
mhm. And so it was a nice little subtle nod too, because like with her little pin they gave like that for me was perfect storytelling. It felt
Mm.
where it gave us just enough where we're like, okay, we know where this is headed. And again, too, I think I like that setup a lot more than a lot of things that we got because
Yeah.
now with Ashley, you have to resonate with the fact that you may have a crush on this girl who got your favorite teacher fired. And then what does that say about you pursuing the
Mm-hmm.
person that kind of essentially ignited you being an activist at school?
Yeah. Yeah. Because when she was like, she was my favorite teacher too. It's like, was she though?
Was she? You
Was
could
she
have kept your mouth
though?
shut if she
I
was.
mean, was she though?
Hmm.
So that's the thing. Like anything else, we're like, no, yeah, like the pacing is questionable. With Ashley, for us, it seems like it's for us. The pacing is fine because
Hmm.
like seriously, she's a child. It's
She is.
like she's a
She's a
child.
teen. She's
Right.
a
So it's
teen.
like we can baby step that in. And also let me put my little foot on my shoebox because I
Hmm.
don't have a soapbox because my
Little
soap my,
shoebox.
my laundry soap is liquid, so I don't have no box. Um let me tell y'all something. This whole thing, we're pushing an agenda and we're trying to turn our children gay. Question for all of the folks that are of a certain age. If you look at, oh, I don't know, Boy Meets World, Saved by the Bell, were there a lot of queer folks on there? I'm pretty sure they weren't. So you know all the queer people that are adults now. What do you fuck do you think they were watching? And that changed nothing. Like, oh yeah, I'm like, oh, Zach and Kelly are hooking up. So anyway, Slater and your hoochie daddy shorts. See how that worked? That does not make any sense. Yo, I'm like, girl. I'm like, it's not. Oh God, I swear. It's like, have you? Are y'all okay? I'm like, so question: how many queer folks do you think have straight parents?
Mm.
How many do you think
My,
you
my
do?
parents, my parents straight. So
It's like, it's like, I'm like, you do this. It's like we can't have gay parents because they'll turn the kids gay. I'm like, so how many queer folks do you know who have straight parents?
right. I
Let me just know.
mean,
Let me just. What's the stats? Hold on. Let me check the census.
go ahead and tap that calculator.
Do I need to go get like a peer reviewed article? Because y'all sound stupid. And I'm like, I'm tired of other straight people embarrassing me. I'm like, they're like, you're a unicorn. I'm like, I'm not. I really am not. I'm like, I am no unicorn. There are people who are straight and think just like me.
Hmm.
I am not no unicorn out here. It's just the ones that's usually wrong. They're rather loud. And they're the ones who
Literally.
like get to come in these rooms. Let me tell you, I'm like, baby, if you're quoting anything to me that Marjorie Tyler Greene has said, you have lost me. It's like, I know you are not quoting that bozo, that circus peanut that used to be president. If you are like quoting, oh God, anybody who literally does not have a smart bone in their body, please miss me. Because
Mm.
here's the thing about Candace Owens. Candace Owens talks like this. Candace Owens has a very attractive cadence to her voice. This is what it sounds like. She says, 1 times 7 is 443.45. The sky is green. The ocean is full of purple alligators. She's fucking stupid. She just has a very pleasant cadence, and I'm tired of y'all being stupid.
Okay. It's just like with shows like this, right? it's okay to have critiques because clearly we're
Mm-hmm.
sitting here, we're talking about it,
Correct.
and like we can give critiques while still loving something. But when they come at shows of like, well, why are you making people gay or why are you doing this? It's like newsflash, what world do you live in? Like we live in a beautiful melting pot of a world. And yes, it's
Yeah.
crazy and insane right now, but let's not act like Black people who were a part of the LGBTQIA plus two spirit community did not exist, right?
Okay.
And I think that's what frustrates me the most about this. And to be honest, Stephanie, I view viewers of shows like this the same as viewers of reality TV. There's something about these
Mm.
shows that you're watching that you yourself seek validation and gratification from.
Yeah.
And the moment that there is something that's introduced that you don't like, quote
Mm.
unquote, you then instantly have a problem with it. Newsflash, this show was not made just for you that sits at home on your couch. This show was made for all of us who want to watch this show. These writers are telling
Hello.
stories that they want to tell. The showrunner is telling stories that they want to tell, right? So just because you don't want Black queer characters on your screen doesn't mean that that's going to happen. If that's the case, turn the channel and shut up about it.
I mean,
Um,
please watch something else.
and it's like they did this not only with this, they did it with P Valley. They did, and it's like my question for these people, and we can switch gears, but I love to give the congregation a thought, although I put my
Mm-hmm.
bishop thing down.
Ooh,
Um,
he took his
but
collar off. He put it back on, y'all.
all I'm gonna say is this is like when you really think about it and you really like watch these shows and you have these opinions of people who are different from you.
Mm-hmm.
Just as much as we fought as Black people to have equality, and I know we're still a long way from there, but like, what
Mm-hmm.
gives you the right to criticize another marginalized community who's not doing anything to hurt you? And then before I finish that, y'all know y'all have Black queer people in your churches, your
Mm-hmm.
workspaces.
Mm-hmm.
Black queer culture has really propelled a lot, right? Look at
Mm-hmm.
Renaissance as an album. Like,
Okay.
look at a lot of different things, sayings that y'all say,
Mm-hmm.
right? Styles that you wear, people that you try to imitate. That comes from Black queer culture. And what frustrates me the most about stuff like this is because just because something is different, you have a problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
Newsflash, just because you have a problem with it, don't make you higher on any type of social hierarchical system, income bracket, economic status. It just makes you phobic. Feeling whatever comes before that, you're just phobic. Um, and then you have to think about too, maybe, when you say all these things, how do you feel when people say they don't want Black people on television? That's just something to think about.
I'm just
So,
saying. I'm just
so
saying.
back to our conversation.
Because
So
thank you for saying that, Brandon, because we've been in the rooms and I'm like, y'all don't like when we say this, but y'all know y'all sound like white people, don't you? Do
mhm,
you really think white people wanted to see us? Why we gotta have niggers on screen? You act like these conversations do not happen. Literally, a
mhm,
black woman kissing Captain Kirk was an issue. They're like, why are we seeing this? This is not necessary. So to watch like literally black people or anybody from a press group literally sound like privileged white people is laughable to me. It's like you didn't
mhm,
realize you sound like white people
mhm.
who
And
didn't
that's the
want to
thing
see
is
us
like
either.
it's just crazy because it's like here we are with the show and again we are giving it critiques from a standpoint of like we love this show,
Correct.
we're just giving our nitpicking
Right.
perspective versus someone who's like, oh no, I will not
I will
watch
never do
this
this. I'm like,
because they have
okay,
like,
girl.
girl, okay, while you still are not tuning in, I'm sure they're still getting the bag, and I'm sure that we that still enjoy it will still watch it. So yeah, I hope those people out there who were like that, I hope they find something else to watch because we will still keep enjoying it.
I mean,
But what do you think, Stephanie, will happen now? So the writer strike is happening
oh my,
right
yes.
now. And
Oh,
so, and I mean,
mm,
listen, I support the writer's strike.
agree.
I am a writer, so like I'm here for it. I'm here with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I back it fully. Do you think that this is gonna like hurt how soon we get the next season or what the next season will look like?
I have a feeling it will because I remember the last writer's strike. And believe
Hmm.
me, TV was trash, okay? It was like,
Heroes,
pay
anyone?
them.
Lost,
Hello?
anyone?
Hello? And it was like, pay them. It's like the thing about it, if you are a writer on a very successful show, you should not be talking about I don't have enough money to do X. I'm like, okay, so that for me is a problem.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm very much pro the WGA strike. please give people their money. They
Okay.
should not have to say, I'm gonna stop working until you pay me. It's like you can like the thing about it is they're working through the pandemic and still getting y'all ad dollars, still getting the streams, still getting all of like the views. Please stop paying people peanuts.
Right. Literally.
It's like, girl, it's
Literally.
like, come on. It's like, no. So yeah, we're old enough to remember that. It was like, yeah, y'all, do y'all remember this? Do y'all really want to do this again? I don't think you do, because believe me, if y'all Google it and see all the thinkity think pieces before think piece was a thing,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna want to just pay them. Yeah, just pay them. Like, we're not doing this. Pay them. It's like, yeah, nope. TV was trash. And it's like some of our best shows just went out sad.
Truly.
Was not a
Truly.
Lost fan. I was a Heroes fan. And
I was
sidebar,
both.
the reboot. I'm like, girl,
I ain't watched that.
I tried. I was like, look here. If y'all not gonna have Zachary Quinto there, y'all can keep it. Kiss my ass.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
Well,
no.
so I was rewatching Heroes season one the other day because you know it's on Peacock as well.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, wait, do I want to do a rewatch of
And I will tell
Heroes?
you, it's I would say give it a rewatch, but like yeah,
Really?
that writer strike really messed that show up.
It really
So I'm
did.
interested to see how Bel Air fares. I hope they just
Yeah.
hold. I hope they just hold
It's like,
because we don't need
give
it
the people
right away.
time.
Yeah, we don't need it right away. Like when was season one? Like, wasn't it like last fall, last summer?
Yeah.
Or was it earlier last year? Because I
It
know I
could have
was
been.
moving. So
Yeah.
my timeline of last year is off. But oh, it was, you know what? It was last February to March.
Okay. Okay.
So around similar timelines. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was like right before my move had happened.
It was right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
It was right before
so
your move.
I mean we could wait a little bit. Hell, we wait long
That's
for
fine.
Stranger Things.
Excuse me. I'm
Speaking,
still.
you know what?
Uh.
I hope they finish writing Stranger Things because if this writer strike delay us another year on this ending of Stranger Things should have ended like 3 years ago. These
Hello.
kids are now in college,
Because now I'm
except
like, do I want to rewatch Stranger Things? Because it's like when it came back that last season, I was like, oh crap, I don't remember what the hell happened.
mm-mm,
What do I need to rewatch? I'm like, Lord. And I'm like, wait a
mm-mm.
minute. Now I'm like, wait a minute. House of the Dragon is not back. I'm like, oh hell. Now we gotta wait 3.5 more years for
Well,
this.
they said House of the Dragon is still going to be filming. They said they already have all scripts written, but like
Oh, they
newsflash,
do. Okay.
but this is the thing, scripts still have to be rewritten.
I mean, hello,
There are
hello,
some things,
edits.
there are things that come from table reads, there are things that come from on the set. There are things
Hello.
that happen with so I'll be interested to see because remember the one movie did you
What?
did you see 007? I believe it was Quantum of Solace. That was just not
Uh,
it.
and I'm not even a 007 fan. And I'm like, girl, what is this?
So
What
it's
is this?
I just hope that the Bel Air crew holds. We just need them to hold.
Just,
We just need them
it's
to
okay. Just take
hold.
a like just wait until the strike. Because the thing about I can't remember how long the strike really was, but it was long enough.
It was long. That was long. And I mean, hey, I'm all about people getting their just due. So,
So it's like that's it. Take your time. I will go and rewatch Legend of
hmm
Korra season
okay.
3. As Brandon said, is that girl? Because it
It's
is.
that girl. She
It's that
really
girl.
is.
I
Cora's
I'm
that girl and that season two.
I loved Korra. Because when okay, this is not about Legend of Korra. Let's talk about Bella. Because this is not about Legend of Korra. And I'm like, I'm tired of y'all acting like that show
We'll do
sucked
a special
ass.
episode. We got to do a
Yes,
special
we
episode for
do.
that.
Yes, we do. Because I'm like, if y'all like, it's on Netflix, all 4 seasons. Korra got 4 seasons and got 3. Now check that. But also the seasons
They
were a
were
little
long. They
longer,
were long.
so it's like it probably will shake out to be the same. But let me just say this: y'all gonna stop throwing dirt on Cora's name, okay? Y'all gonna stop it right now. So Brandon will be back because we're gonna talk about Legend of Korra.
Yes.
So we talked about like the stuff we're like, now come on, y'all. So here's one of the things that I was like, this is like the cornerstone of the show. We need to keep it. The
hmm
complexity of Carlton Banks.
Yo,
He fucking carries that character carries this season.
he really, I remember last season I was a little concerned with where they were headed
Mm-hmm.
with Carlton.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very thankful to see where he is now.
Yeah.
And when it comes to Carlton's character this season, I think the only critique that I did have for him I think it was twofold. One was with, and it wasn't more so for him, it was just the writers of like trying to understand with
Mm-hmm.
someone who is struggling for addiction.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel he could go as long as he did without proper care and treatment and
Mm-hmm.
resources because he was addicted. Like season
Yeah.
one, homie, you just ain't like, oh, well, bye.
You're not an
Like,
occasional drug addict. This is not,
right,
it's like,
right. And
I don't
so
know.
that I was kind of like, okay.
Hmm.
But so seeing it come back full force this season while tying it to like his anxiety,
Hmm.
that was an interesting approach. And like his friend can go hop in a lake. Like I initially thought it was the boy wanting him to be back with him. So he released the video. Like I thought that was gonna be it. Was that,
Yeah.
oh boy, what was his name? Was
Is
it
it
Noah?
Connor, Kyle?
Connor,
Oh no.
Connor, Connor.
I'm like,
Um,
Connor, Kyle,
Connor.
what's his
Yeah,
name?
I felt it was going to be Connor behind it as a means of like, oh, I didn't know who released the video, man. I'm so sorry that happened. I'm a
Hmm.
lose too, but let's go ahead on these benders. And then come to find
Yeah.
out, good old Connor win. Like, I thought that's where we were headed with that. Like, I thought he was
Mm.
purposely going out to tear Carlton down.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
here we have it, the drunken and drug benders and all these things. And, Carlton's character this season went through a lot. And something that I liked that they did show us was the conflict internally of wanting to do the right thing, but what if it jeopardizes you, right?
Mm.
Because I think a lot of us go through that, especially being Black and like wanting to make sure we speak up and stand out and protest and shout out the things that are wrong in the world or that are racist, right? And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that, how he went about it was the right way, but until you're in that position, are we anyone to judge, right? Because while Carlton, what he did was wrong, like I wouldn't have done it. But to think
Hmm.
about a high schooler, right, who is trying to secure his own future while still trying to do the right thing, because we knew where he aligned, like we saw the conversation, but then how he got a panic attack, right?
Mm.
But even beyond the panic attack, we knew where he stood. And I think that this is such a great conversation that needs to happen more
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, y'all know I stand 10 toes down wherever I am, right? Like
Hmm.
I don't care who I'm around. I'm going to speak up for a cause, but you have this character who has the world because his family has a great income bracket. To see him with such conflict of like, well, if I do this, like what does that mean for me? Right? And I
Hmm.
think where Carlton's trying to have his own footing because of course he could rely on Viv and Phil as much as they try to say they tough parents. They told Hillary she can move home anytime she want to move, like
Hmm.
we know how they are as parents. I think
Right.
what this showed was Carlton not viewing himself as enough or lovable to have that security of the family. Heaven forbid something goes wrong, i.e.,
Yeah.
his drugs,
Hmm.
i.e., it was his anxiety. And so he was probably thinking, and again, I'm not in the writer's room, so I'm just probably, I may be giving too much credit. But what I took away from it were two things. One, I was like, Carlton, like doing the right thing never bites you in the butt, right? But he's young and he doesn't know that. But what I also took away from it was this is someone who's trying to make sure that he's okay at the end of the day with
Yeah.
his flaws and all. Because as
Yeah.
much as family likes to say, like, oh, we got you, oh, we here for you, oh, blah, 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 we saw as much of a battle that he went through just to get his medicine reduced, right?
Hmm.
And then no one knew that he was struggling with drugs other than I think it was Will. So it was like,
Yeah.
you really have this character at first. I did not really care for Carlson season one, but to now
Mm.
have this character where you're like, okay, what would I do in this moment, right? Like, what
Hmm.
would I do while like, yeah, I don't want to drop the fight, but then it's like, yeah, do I then want to get suspended? Because then it's like the consequences that I fall on, right? Like, what does that mean for
Mm.
my future and my career? Present state as a black gay man in America myself, like I have enough income, 401k and now because
Hmm.
I went through a lot within the last 2 years, but like and I know I have people who support me, right?
Hmm.
Whereas like you have a young man who, yeah, his family has money, but if he's not doing what they like, we see how that goes. Or we see the
Yeah.
friction between him and Phil because of when Will got there. And so again, we don't know what people who deal with anxiety deal with because again, it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
And I think that scene in itself is a scene I try not to judge him or watch that with a judgmental lens because until we are in certain situations, we don't know the decision that we will make, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like I think that's why I love the complexity of Carlton because I think when we see on television, when you see like the token black person in a predominantly white space, to a certain extent, we don't get in the weeds about how that looks mentally for that person because
Mm-hmm.
Carlton had these issues before Will even got there, and it's like to a certain extent, did they exacerbate his issues? Maybe, but not really. Because like
Mm-hmm.
Homeboy had this drug problem before he got here. So he always had this issue. So him getting back on drugs, I was not surprised by because hello, we watch Intervention and we watched everything. Just like it is not that easy to kick a habit. And there's a lot of people who are functioning drug addicts who could literally fool a lot of people because
Mm-hmm.
he fooled people who literally have known him his entire life. They had
Mm-hmm.
no clue. It's like,
No.
wait, it's like, oh wait, this is not your anxiety medicine. No, it is not. It's a whole different one. And then to see like the anguish with his parents, like we have failed him because essentially it's like there's no way that you can't feel that way. Because
Right.
like you can sit here and go like, well, I'm like, no, it's not your fault. It's like, yeah, tell any parent that they're all
Right.
gonna feel like, hey, I kind of fucked up my kid. Where the hell was I? How did this happen under my watch? How
Mm-hmm.
did this happen?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so it's kind of like I like that conversation. I also like that he literally voiced what a lot of people who literally have to be the perfect black person, the literal. I am the example of what
Mm-hmm.
blackness is to all of these white people or non-black people. So that's a lot of pressure. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like I'm glad that you're showing that because I think people think like, oh, being popular is so easy. I'm like, yeah, because it's like um being the only in a white space may get you in the room,
Hmm.
but it ain't going to keep you there unless you play by their rules.
Right.
And that is a lot to ask for anyone. It's like, girl, I don't have time to be, I don't want to be your perfect Jody doll. Stop being a black kid and just be a kid. I'm sorry. I really like Jody from Daria. Because it's like, mind you, these are
La
white
la
writers.
la la
These are
la
white writers, and you
la
kind of
la
touched on this.
la
I'm like, so
la
you
la.
must
I
have
love
young people.
Daria. I love Daria.
Daria is such
Uh,
a good rewatch.
so
So,
timely. So
right,
timely. I was
right.
singing the
So,
theme song.
right. It's like, girl, I love that stuff. So the thing about it's like Carlton's arc is the strongest because it brings in a lot of other things. Because then you got your blackity black people on one side, and then you got the folks that have gotten to a place playing the white supremacy game with respectability politics, like the teacher.
Hmm.
So it's like that's a lot of different blackness on one daggone show, and I'm kind of glad that y'all all seeing. It's like blackness is not a monolith. We're not a monolith. So you're going to find these people like you're going to have to play this game if you want to be successful. That doesn't mean you're being yourself. And
Right.
so we're gearing up to, oh Lord, what are we gearing up for? Is Carlton going to rehab? I would not be surprised if that actually does happen.
Hmm.
So,
I I feel like what we will get is Carlton maybe not necessarily missing, but like MIA, see, like first 1 to 2 episodes, because if he is in
okay.
rehab, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then having him come back, or they could just start with him coming out of rehab. I definitely think he's going to rehab.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where we'll get his true arc coming in, to really
Right.
solidify the growth for him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where I see the story kind of getting where I see it kind of getting to a point of friction will be Carlton will probably be coming back from rehab and needs the support of the parents, but they'll both be busy.
Yeah.
Phil being with the new office, managing and dealing with Erica, and then Viv now being on the board was the board.
Yeah.
So it's I think we will finally see that. And I think what we will see is Phil probably having to take a backseat to Viv's career to help support Carlton.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm interested to see where Carlton goes with this
Yeah.
because I did enjoy him really hitting rock bottom. And I appreciated them showing that sometimes that is what it's like. Like you think someone will change or have the light bulb moment before, but sometimes it does hit at rock bottom
Mm-hmm.
of like a I need to save myself. I got to speak up. I got to say something. And
Yeah.
seeing how he did Ashley, I was like, oh Lord. But like, I'm glad that Carlton was able to essentially free himself of
Mm-hmm.
everything that he was going through. And so I'm interested to see where we go with Carlton future state.
Yeah, again, another storyline that I'm like, I'm glad we didn't go too far of him beating on his younger sister. Like, yeah, we
Oh
don't need
yeah.
to see this. Like, up, okay, the
Mm-mm,
wave has
mm-mm,
crashed against the shore. That's
mm-mm,
it. That's all
mm-mm,
we need. We don't
mm-mm.
need
Yeah,
anything
that was
else.
good. That was
I'm
good.
like,
Yeah.
nope, I'm good. I think the other, I don't know. So I think I like this Viv. I'm wondering if we are going to get old school Aunt Viv in season 3. It's like you saw like the Fresh Prince reunion, and you see
Hmm.
that they basically worked out their beef. I'm like, so does that mean we getting old school Viv
I
season
hope
3? Because
so.
I'm like, she need to be here. I'm like, we got old school Will's mama, we got new school Viv,
Viv.
we got Ashley. It's like I'm surprised we have not seen old school Carlton. I'm
What
very surprised by this.
I mean, I so Carlton and because did he go to the reunion? He was at the reunion,
He
right? Was he
was.
at the Okay.
He was.
I definitely think we will see them pop up.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see a Carlton moment.
Mm-hmm.
How we got Ashley to Ashley, and then in terms of
Yeah.
Viv, maybe we will see her when our new Viv is like out doing the art stuff, and so maybe that'll be a means to bring her in. What I will say with Viv's storyline this season, though, I need them to give her more.
Just a little
I
bit.
always
Just a
feel
little bit
like
more.
she kind of gets like the short end of the stick. Like we got beautiful, who was that? Michael Ealy last season, and then we didn't even get him this. It was kind of
It
like
was
a
like, what was the point of showing us this beautiful man with green
right.
eyes? The green eye
But then
bandit.
belong over there in Potomac.
Okay.
But then you really get her, which I did appreciate with like her art gallery stuff. But I even felt
Mhm.
with that storyline, it was stretched where it was like,
Y'all
okay,
gonna have to say
so
something else because what is happening here?
right, like we have the gallery thing going, and then the back and forth, and then her getting the role. Like that for me just felt too stretched of a story where I
Yeah.
really wish they would have let her lean in more. Like we really got to
Mm-hmm.
see her like creating more and
Yeah.
the positioning of that role. I
Mm-hmm.
I feel what could have happened for me in my perfect world, she would have gotten that role by like episode 4. Like we could have did the debuting or whatever by like episode 2, 3,
Mm-hmm.
have that gallery or 4, 5. And then
Mm-hmm.
what you could do is and then what you could do is have it where she has a conflict with the former woman, but then this new role is keeping her busy, letting
Yeah.
Erica weasel her way in. Like it just, again, I think the way it was laid out for me, I was like, we could have shuffled some things around, but I just want Viv to have more next season. I hope we get that with her in this new position.
Agreed. Because it's kind of like I like that it got a little bit messy, but not too much. And I'm kind of glad they just decided to just kind of like convince her to retire herself. But it's like, yeah, because let's be very clear. A lot of white people only like the Highlander of it all. It can only be one. It can't be both. Y'all couldn't have like stretched it to make it seem like y'all need to be more collaborative. Because sometimes that
Hmm.
whole crab in a barrel thing is fostered by the environment that you're in.
Hmm.
So it's like, it's kind of like, because one, I think the whole, she felt undermined by new school Viv, because I literally cannot remember this woman's name. Hello, I'm sorry,
Oh,
y'all.
it was
Oh,
I'll tell you her name. You're talking about when they were doing like the art gallery stuff and what was her
right,
name?
right. Because it's like
It
all of a sudden, it's
was
like she's trying to undermine you at everything, at every pass. I'm like, okay, so can y'all give us examples? Because I feel like
which felt
we
weird. Yeah,
didn't understand that. It was kind of like,
Janice.
Janice,
Janice.
thank you. So it's so funny. It's a Janice. It's a Janice. What? But the thing about it is, I feel like y'all could have fleshed this out just a little bit more. But I'm kind of glad that it was resolved in a way that didn't turn into two black women slinging mud, even though we kind of could see that. But it also did not really dive into what was Janice's issue with Viv.
Yeah,
It's
it
like,
did.
what was your
You're right.
issue? It's like,
And again, they could have fleshed that out more too. It was like they could have given us like well, as a black woman, you need to be doing art this way, or
mm-hmm.
they didn't really break down into that because it could have been respectability politics, right? So
Yeah.
they could have given us that, but to your point, yeah, we didn't really know her issue, and that's why I say they could have given Viv more because again, it's like they're introducing certain stuff, but then it's like, all right, that's over. And it's like,
It's like,
wait, well, what? Okay, she
because
just
she
talking about
seems
the
so
tea like that?
excited for her first season. That's why I was like, wait a minute, now all of a sudden she don't like her? Like,
Right.
what? It's like, what is happening here? I don't know what I'm saying. I'm like, are y'all trying to give us like she is mean church lady? Is that what y'all trying to tell us?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what's happening? Because I don't like that. Okay, I don't like that. So BuzzFeed
Mm-hmm.
has this agree or disagree quiz of season 2 opinions that I
Okay.
was like, oh, we got to play this because I'm like, huh.
Okay.
So it
I'm
is
ready.
called 15 Things I Need to Get Off My Chest After Watching Season 2 of Bel Air. Let's see if
Okay.
you agree. And I was like, oh, okay.
Okay.
Let me start off by saying I don't like Phil. I didn't realize not liking Phil was a thing because he a little too fine. I'm
Oh.
like,
I mean, I do like him to look at, but his character can be a little wishy-washy.
he could
Okay.
be he's like, I didn't realize. Hugh, glad I got this off my chest. This man is filled with too much pride and selfishness for me to like him. He is not
Mm-hmm.
my Uncle Phil. I agree.
Okay, I can agree with that. He is very selfish.
It's
I
like,
can agree with that.
may James Avery rest in peace. I feel like if he was still here, it'd be him and Reginald Val Johnson doing these insurance commercials with TV Dad. The fact that it is um Reginald that doing it, I'm like, I'm glad. I'm like, yeah, that's right. Because if Bill Cosby wasn't shit, he'd probably be doing these commercials. But that's neither here nor there. So, let me just leave that alone. So according to BuzzFeed, 56% agreed with her statement. I'm like,
Mm.
okay. Oh wow, I didn't realize this too. And I'm like, huh. I honestly don't like Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv together. I think she deserves a husband who supports her dreams and is not out entertaining meetups with his ex.
Mm.
Mm,
I don't know if I would go as far as saying I don't know if I don't like them together, but I
yeah,
will say like he needs to step up at home. I will give it that.
that. So I guess I'm a disagree. 75% agree with her, and I'm
Oh.
like, I'm sorry. This see the Uncle Phil and the Aunt Viv that we see. I'm like, I'm sorry. I want them to create an OnlyFans. No, oh, I'm being completely honest here. I'm like, I'm
Mm.
sorry, Uncle Phil a little too fine, and Aunt Viv a little too fine. Like seriously, when is the
Right.
OnlyFans happening?
Right.
When is demon time? Okay. See, why am
Could
I
you
like
imagine
this?
an
It's
episode
like,
called
ooh,
Demon Time? Lord have
ooh,
mercy.
Lord, oh Lord, she be like ordering from Savage Fenty, all her Shein stuff coming in. This would be great. It's kind of messed up how Will did Lisa. He said he jumped into their relationship too fast, but then jumped into a situationship with Jackie even faster. LOL. It's not fair how he's playing with her heart. 1 minute in Lisa's face and another minute in Jackie's.
What was the question? If we agree with
If you agree or disagree with this,
that Will is a playboy? Is he
yeah, it's
a
kind of messed up how he's treating Lisa.
Oh, I mean, I agree with that
I agree
because
too.
like he was the one, didn't he ask for the space? And
I could
then
have swore he did.
yeah, because it was because remember he was going through things and it
I
was
need
him
some
trying to leave
space.
Bel Air and then all of a sudden
Mm-hmm.
you gonna talk. Yeah, it was he wasn't it. He was not it.
Yeah, 80% agree. So it's
hmm
like that 20%. I don't know. Maybe they just don't like Lisa
Yeah.
because Lisa is also all over the place because it was like, huh. But again, Will Dick, it is kind of messed up. I'm sorry, Will. I'm sorry,
It's messed up.
Jabari. Get
hmm
it together.
Okay.
I love Jazz, I really do, but he is too insecure. I'm not about to sit in a restaurant and watch your car decline multiple times. And I'm not fit. And so I know this woman is black. I'm not finna argue about it in public. It's better for him to date someone of his caliber. Jazz, I think Coco
Ooh.
Jones wrote that song for you. Hee hee.
Um, mm. Well, I
Ooh.
feel like that was too broad because, like, okay, the insecurity thing is one thing. The car
Mhm.
declining is something else. Clearly, he was trying to do something nice and, like, it just went over the bracket. So I don't know
Correct.
if those are the same thing. I don't know if he needs a quote unquote date within his caliber because, like, LA is home for anybody and everybody.
Mhm.
And I'm a firm believer of love is love. Like, when I go out dating, I'm not saying that I need to have a millionaire or someone making six figures. Would that be nice? Absolutely, but I'm not going to turn you down. Oh Lord, because I heard our good sis the other day say that she wouldn't date a bus driver. I
I
mean,
saw
like,
that, and I'm like, you're talking to Iyanla Van Zant. I'm like, let me tell you something. Find me a picture of Rosa Parks for me to talk. Girl, quote some Cardi and say this stuff. I'm sorry, I'm being rude.
So I don't know if I would say that. I mean, but I guess for the sake of the context of the question, I have to agree. Like he is insecure. So
Yeah, I it's like he is the thing. I don't know if it's too insecure because we didn't see his insecurities the
right,
first time, so I just think he is insecure. But I still agree, but
right.
not about the caliber part because I'm like, I think on paper, or I'm sorry, in photo, Jazz and Hillary are very cute. But
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like, I'm like, I don't know if he's too insecure, but it does breed insecurity. So 70% agreed with that.
Right.
Like, but I'm sorry, the whole I'm not finna argue.
Yeah, we know who she is. Hey, girl.
Like, come on, finna. They're like, so there's probably some white person going, Finny or Woo Chile. I'm like, I still, I'm like, why are you videotaping your white friends who know what the fuck they talk? You know what? Never mind. Let me shut up. LaMarcus is a much better match for Hillary. He understands being in the spotlight. He's confident and well paid. Yeah, I said it. Oh, okay. And he knows how to apply pressure. Sidebar. I'm glad Hillary decided to join him in Paris. Bon voyage, sis. How do we know he's well paid and confident?
I don't necessarily agree that they're a good match just because of all those things. I
I
have to
disagree
disagree.
with
I have
that.
to
I
disagree.
disagree. I'm like,
Trust and
I
believe.
don't know that.
I've dated an athlete before.
Mm-hmm.
And I will just share like it's not all what it's cracked up to be. So, I mean, just because he's doing those things doesn't make him a great man or a great fit as a partner.
I mean, it really doesn't because I'm like, what makes you think he is confident? I'm like, sir, they broke up and he just he did apply
Right.
the pressure. That part
Right.
I agree with because he was very like, I ain't leaving without you. And it's like, so
Pressure,
what?
like Ari Lennox
Right,
say.
exactly. He brought the pressure. I
Pressure.
get it, but it's like, I'm sorry. I don't know if he's a better match because we don't know that.
Right.
38% disagreed with that statement, like we did.
Mm.
I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, I can't say that. Oh boy. Whew. Okay, this is gonna be funny. Now, Miss Hillary isn't completely innocent. I think she at least owed Jazz a warning that LaMarcus was coming to the art show. And asking your ex for a favor while you're in a relationship with someone else is a bit tacky, if you ask me. I think she needs to sort out her feelings before accepting massive favors from any man. But didn't you just okay? You know what? Nope. We're going to leave it by nope.
Favors from okay. I'm going to agree with the parts of I do think she should have let Jazz know.
Mm-hmm.
Although she tried to play it off of like this is business,
Mm-hmm.
you still need to say that on the front end of like, look, I need to do this. I want you to know it's
Mm-hmm.
just business, not something after the fact, because the fact that she hit it lets us know as an audience she knew something was up with that. So
Correct.
I do agree that she should have given him a heads up because again, at the end of the day, that's an ex, right? And
Yeah.
if we haven't even gotten to the parts about talking about our exes fully or deeply, is that fair to bring said person around without me really knowing like the context, right? So
Right.
I agree. I agree with their statement.
Yeah, it's like, girl, we ain't finna argue with you either, okay? We're not gonna
Hmm.
argue, but but 92%, wow, 92% agreed.
Mm,
I'm not, oh,
mm,
okay, wait. Oh, poor Drake. Drew is literally the worst. That's the boy's name that dropped the video.
okay.
I was like, Drew. I'm like, what? I'm thinking Drew
Drop it with
Sidora.
Drew.
I was
I was like, drop it
like,
with
drop it with
Drew.
Drew. Like, what? What? Like, we ain't got to do season yet. Drew is literally the worst! Exclamation point. I'm glad Carlton knocked that smirk off his face because he deserved every punch. Yeah,
Agree.
agreed.
Well, I don't even got to go into it.
Like, we
Agree.
like agreed. 96% agreed because I'm sorry. He was cruising for a bruising, and I'm glad he went down the right road to get his ass. Okay.
Amen.
I appreciate how I like how she put this in asterisk. How classy Aunt Viv is, but sometimes I wish she'd clap back just a little more. She's too considerate of other people's feelings, including her husband's, and I'm tired of people taking advantage of her kindness.
I disagree. I disagree. I think that she does do it, but I'm a
Mm-hmm.
firm believer of once I've said something one time, I don't need to say
I'm
it
not
again.
gonna keep
I'm
repeating
just
it.
gonna adjust myself. And I think that was where we got her when she was like, why is it that I always support you, but you see in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
had she let that go, I'd have been like, I disagree with this statement. But
Correct.
that so I think that she I don't know. I think that she does enough. So whatever
I
they
do.
said, I had to disagree with, you know.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, 89% agree with her, but I'm a disagree as well
Mm-hmm.
because one, if that was the case, then she would have dropped her claim to getting this job if she really was all about
Mm-hmm.
like not doing it.
People
It's like,
pleasing
baby,
and
yeah, because I think what it is that we don't like saying having the angry black woman trope, but then also saying, "Girl, you need to get angry." I'm like, but
right,
girl, I'm aware of my surroundings. I
right.
understand. So I don't understand that. Okay. Phil fails to see that his pressure makes Carlton's addiction worse. He really formed his lips to say that Carlton didn't have the strength to say no to peer pressure. Meanwhile, he's saying yes to his ex. His embrace with Carlton in episode 10 was very touching, but he's still a hypocrite who needs to be mindful of how his temper is affecting his family.
I agree. I don't necessarily think it's his temper, but
Yeah.
I do think it's his double standards. And I do
Yeah.
think that so I agree because again, Phil is out here being reckless too. So
He's being reckless, and it's very much like I think when it came to I gotta help Will, I
mm-hmm.
can't help you. I'm like, oh baby, he's still your son. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
get it that is your nephew, but
That's
also
your
then
son.
that's your son. But also, are you saying that Will is not strong enough to do this? I'm like,
Right.
girl, what are y'all saying? Again, Carlton's drug problem been there for a very long time.
Right.
So 87% agreed because we agree. It, yeah, okay, okay. It turns out Doc is not the villain, but I don't know. It's something about Suge Knight. LOL. Shout out to R. Marcus Taylor. I'm being Doc's bodyguard that makes me still not trust him. Yeah, that's kind of fizzled out for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's not the villain. I'm like, so who exactly is the villain then? So now I'm confused. I'm like, he's still the fucking villain. Like,
He's
I
still a
don't know.
villain because
It's
he
like,
wasn't honest. He wasn't honest about his intentions.
right.
So
I'm like, I'm sorry. He's
yeah.
still it's like, yeah. It's like he's not a villain, but it's like I still don't trust him. I'm like, I don't know. Agree? I mean, I don't even know what to say because I'm like, I don't know what I'm agreeing or disagreeing to. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, he is the villain,
Mm-hmm.
but I still don't trust him. Maybe agree. I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like Ashley's storyline got pushed on the back burner this season. It started off strong with her fight for Mrs. Hughes, but quickly faded after that. She's often in the background of everyone else's moment, and I like the show to dig deeper into Ashley's world.
I agree. I do think that they need a better balancing act of who
Mm-hmm.
we're focusing on. Maybe they should like because I don't think they do this, but maybe the episodes focus on someone. So like one episode really focuses on one person, one episode because
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see I forget what shows or movies have done this where you get to see things from different perspectives and timelines.
Yeah.
And I think that would be impactful, like an episode told by this person's point of view, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
you get this person's point of view, and you're like, oh, okay. I think that would be more impactful. And I do agree that Ashley's story, and it's something that we talked about earlier, that story could have gone all season. So
Yeah.
I do agree with that.
Yeah. So is it 87%? Because I agree. It's kind of like because I think yeah, like the fluidity of Ashley is not the storyline. The fight with Mrs. Hughes is probably the storyline that she's referring to, and I agree with that. So that's
Hmm
87%. We agree. I'm like, yeah. Ooh, okay. Yes. Okay. Ooh, I love this. On the contrary, I think Carlton carried the drama of this season with his raw, heartbreaking scenes. His characterization opened up conversations about mental health and substance abuse, and I think his journey in future seasons will shine light on the stigma. Bravo to Ali Sholaton, who gave the most profound performance this season. He
Agree.
eats agree. He ate this fucking thing up, and 96% of people agree. Yeah, Carlton is like he's the strongest storyline on this
hmm
show because it's
I
like you
agree.
can go very far with this. You can keep it like narrow, but you can go very broad. So I'm all
Right.
about it. So as someone who is from West Philadelphia, born and raised, well, kinda, girl, okay. Are you in West Philadelphia or not? Okay. I can confidently say that Will is the realest one. And in true Philly fashion, he is never afraid to speak his mind no matter the consequence. While everyone else in the series is skating around, hiding who they are, walking on eggshells, Will is being his true, authentic self, and it is much appreciated. Agree to a certain
Agree.
extent. Yeah, it's like agree because the thing about it is like sometimes he gives me the glimmer of Will Smith as the Fresh Prince, but sometimes it's okay. I'm gonna say this, y'all. We ain't gotta play Will like he's stupid. Like he like, oh, I'm a fumble. I'm like, yeah, stop acting like hood niggas aren't smart. They're some of the smartest niggas I know. So it's like, yeah, we gonna start acting like Will is stupid. I'm
Right.
sorry. The guy who plays Jeffrey is so fine to me.
He is.
He
That
is
whole cast is
so
attractive.
fine. It's like, oh my gosh. Okay, Jeffrey freaks me out. He's literally around the corner at all times. And have you noticed that he never smiles like ever? I just want to.
I mean, I disagree because I kind of find that kind of hot. But
I
I
do
mean,
too. I'm like, disagree. I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't need him to smile. Oh, I was gonna
he
say
could do a little
something, man.
smize
I
and give me
mean,
that
he do little
accent. Yep.
smiles. I'm like, now with this accent, so I don't give a goddamn. Okay. I was like, I don't need to. 58% agreed with her statement. I'm in the 42%. I'm like, no, I
Okay.
disagree.
Right.
It's like Jeffrey a little too fine. It's fine. I want to wet the spirit. Let me shut up. Um,
Stephanie, I can't
I
take you
know. I'm
anywhere.
sorry. Y'all know how y'all know me, and I already know Charmaine's like Stephanie. I'm like, what? What I say? Finally, Bel Air has to be the most perfect reboot I've seen in a very long time. It pays homage to the original show in small ways that don't define its new and fresh direction. Even the characters have their own arc completely separate from the originals. I'm a beloved fan of Fresh Prince, but I must say Bel Air has kept me more engaged.
I'm gonna say disagree.
Oh,
So while I
we
do enjoy
shaking the
this,
table.
while I do agree that this show has done, some good things and is like really trying to flesh out. I don't know if it's like the perfect reboot. Like,
Mm,
I don't know if I agree with that. Like, I feel nothing is truly a perfect reboot. I think
mm,
that it's doing great, but there is definitely a lot of things that they can improve on. And so I don't know if I would give it that because again,
mm. I
I
think
still
that's
have
fair, by
questions.
the way.
I have questions still at the end of the season. There are storylines that could have been fleshed out. And while yeah, we
Mm.
have these characters, not much has changed from season one until now. So yeah, I don't know if I really agree with that.
Mm, I actually do because I think, but the thing about it is, I'm like, so here's the thing. I think it's a
Hmm.
really good show, but as much I was like, first I'm like, oh, I'm agreeing. Then I'm like, wait a minute. I don't look at this as a reboot of Fresh Prince of Bel Air.
Right. I think it's something different. I think
Yeah,
it's yeah.
yeah. So I
Because if it was
think,
a true reboot, it would be a comedy. I feel like I
yeah,
think this
it's
is
like,
more of like a spiritual a spiritual like inspiration, like a retelling, if you will. I think
yeah,
it's more of like a retelling than a reboot.
yeah, yeah. It's like when I think about reboots, I'm like, which is a really good one. I'm like, please let me think about that. Because I don't know. Like if I think of a movie, and I know people are like who are Trekkers or Trekkies, depending on who you are. The new Star Trek movies they may not
Heard about
like.
that.
I fucking love the new Star Trek movies. I like the different timeline that they're doing. Is it a reboot? Kinda, because you're essentially using the same characters. I mean, I don't
Right.
know what are the rules, but yeah, I disagree too. It's like it's a very, very good show. It really
Mm-hmm.
does. It does it pay homage to a certain extent, it does, but then it's kind of different than it was because I'm like, I'm sorry, was Uncle Phil in a frat in the Fresh Prince? Because I kind of feel like he wasn't.
I think he could have been,
I mean,
but
he
I
could
don't
have
know
been.
if it
I'm
was
like,
supposed.
one, like Uncle Phil is a cute dog. Is like, girl, what is happening right now? Oh, wait, or
Mm.
was he an alpha? Girl, I don't even know. I'm like, wait, you? I'm like, was Uncle Phil Divine Nine? I mean, he was from Omicron, but it's like I feel like we didn't see any Divine Nine-ness
Right.
in Fresh Prince. So
Right.
it's like I can see where the person is going to, where I can agree. Is it the perfect reboot? Mm, I sound like Candy. Gotta make this. It's kind of like I think fleshing more out of Will as the basketball player because I'm like Jabari looks my height, so I'm a little bit mad right now. I'm 5'8". What the hell? I'm like, oh wait a minute, Bel Air, where the heck are all of these daggone dudes who do the shooty hoops that y'all could have had on this show? Where is LeBron? LeBron,
Right.
go get it. Yo, look here, Maverick. Go get us some ball players to guest star. Like, where the cameos? Because who the heck is Lamarcus? I don't even know who this man is. He could be a. He could
He
be
was
a.
in he was in Umbrella Academy.
Oh my God, he was.
Yeah, the guy who played Lamarcus was on the most recent season of Umbrella Academy when it was what was they called?
Oh my God,
the
what were they called?
Sparrows?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sure was. Yeah. So this is how, and mind you, sidebar, y'all. I loved the Umbrella Academy when it first started. This last season was like, girl, leave us alone. Girl, leave me alone. Girl, get away from me with this, Apollo. It's giving me very much Fringe. If y'all
Hmm.
ever watched the show Fringe, you would know towards the end, it's like, girl, what the fuck is this?
Okay.
I was like, oh hell no. Jeremy Pacey is too fine for y'all to be letting his show go out with a whimper. Damn it. But it's just like, I can't believe this. There's so many shows where it's like, oh my God, this is just terrible. Also, I don't know, have you ever watched the show Grimm?
I did. I watched a couple episodes back when it was on, and I did enjoy it. I
I did
enjoyed
a
it.
rewatch of Grimm, and like towards the end of the season, I was like, girl, what the hell is this? And I
Mm.
loved Grimm. I really do. And also I need to start listening to their podcast because they do like a
Oh, I have to
recap
check that
podcast.
out.
It's like the person who plays Juliet, who I think Rosalie, and then the Hexen Beast. I can't remember her name. So they host a podcast and then they do a deep dive. They started with season one. Yeah. So
I'll check that
definitely,
out.
yeah. So y'all, I think we got a show.
Yeah.
Brandon, thank you for combing through season two
Oh my
of Bel Air.
God.
Thank
Of
you for
course.
recommending this show. It's like, it's
Yes.
so
And you know,
good.
like I said, despite all things that I said, I do enjoy this show. I think it's fun. I think it's entertaining, and it definitely touches on topics that I love. So I'm so glad that you got to watch it.
Yes, I'm so glad you convinced it. Like, so before we get out of here, please tell everybody how they can find you on the social medias and if they want someone
Lord
to drop
have
the jewels.
mercy. No,
Okay.
I don't need them to do that. I'm out here casually dating. So I would say you can follow me on the Instagram at bgoode, b.goode. That E is silent, to keep up with me. So yeah.
Yes, y'all. Thank you for listening to the show. Y'all are so funny. He's like, excuse me, I don't need my Thursday night knowing about my Tuesday night. Okay. I'm like, Brandon, live your best life up in Portland. Okay.
Oh my God, girl. You know how
Yes.
the West Coast life is the life for
It's the
me.
life. It's like, whoop, let me live vicariously through Brandon. But y'all, this is the Mocha Minutes podcast. I will be back next week.
Whoop, whoop.
Bye.